I use one of these? My earring. Hello? That came all the way from Ghana and it just almost went down that hole. Okay. Good morning.
Good morning.
It's so good to be back. I've really missed you guys. I really missed this church atmosphere, the calmer worship. I'm a little chilly, and that's a good thing. I'm really enjoying it. Yeah, so what Greg said, I went to Ghana for 2 months. I pretty much told my parents that it was final after I bought the plane ticket, because I knew that if I told them before, they weren't going to let me go, knowing that I didn't go with an organization or anything. I basically found a host that had started a school, and it was the second year of it running when I went, and I spent 2 weeks in the capital of Ghana, in Accra, and then I spent the rest of the 6 weeks in Kumasi, where the school is. We were praying about the trip before I went, and we decided that we were going to try and start a ministry just while I was there. And it was called Teen Talkathon, we decided, and it was basically Gideon and I. We figured out through his friends and different areas in Ghana that we could go speak at and provide a meal for. And we went to 3 different villages. I had pictures, but of course they didn't work, and I am a procrastinator, so I'm really sorry about that. If you want to go on my Facebook, I have a bunch of them, but we went to 3 different villages. The first one was 300 students, the second one was 300, and the last one was 700. And it was bigger than I ever could have imagined in my life. That is actually a picture from one of the Teen Talkathons. And we were able to give the teens a platform to speak about what they were struggling with in their village. And one of the main things was teen pregnancy. And I thought it would be, just like starving or the poverty of it, but it was seriously just teen pregnancy was the main thing that they were struggling with. And it would be these 13, 14-year-old girls having children, and then they would call it streetism, where the children would be put out on the street because they literally were kids trying to raise kids. And they talked about different ways to impact that and how they truly just need God to come into their lives, because a lot of the time it wasn't the children's decision to have children. So fully relying on God in all of that, the situations, was extremely necessary. We were able to do a prayer of salvation during that, but I was honestly blown out of the water by their faith. They start worshiping before I speak, and I'm like, oh my goodness, like God's trying to teach me way more, anything that I can teach these teens. Like they know how to worship God. They if there's anything that the Africans are not lacking, it is faith. And it is because they literally survive off of faith. They have extreme physical manifestations of the Spirit, of the Holy Spirit, of witchcraft and voodoo, and we had to pray over every meal. We had to pray before we got into any taxi. We had to pray because there were such crazy physical manifestations, and it really put into perspective in the Bible the mountains moving and the bush burning, because the physical things are all over in Africa, and the way that the Spirit moves is completely different than it is here. We just have a lot more emotional, a lot more spiritual inside of us instead of the physical, which I am thankful for, I guess I would say. We are very blessed. We are very blessed. The second Teen Talkathon, it was in the same day as the first one, and we were 6 hours late because of traffic and because of African time is not like our time. They would be like, oh, we're going to go meet at lunch at 12 o'clock. It would be 3 p.m. when they're having lunch. And there was no conversation about the fact that they were late. That's just their timing. And so I had to adjust to that for sure. I think I was a lot better at it than I should have been because I'm late for everything. But so I didn't really mind, but the people stayed for 6 hours. They stayed and waited for 6 hours in this small building until we got there. And they have just this persistence. They have this intentional relationship with God, knowing that He's the only thing that they need, and that time is made up by us, and God's timing is definitely not our timing. And so that was a huge lesson to learn. Our typical day after the Teen Talkathons, I started teaching at Gideon School, and it was the second year running, like I said, and it was in a building that I don't even know how to explain it here. That's a journal entry that someone wrote. Sorry, I'm getting distracted by my own pictures. And the school is just this huge concrete building that is pretty much hollowed out. It doesn't even have any doors. It is literally just brick by brick put up, and they're scared that it's going to collapse while they're in it. They are like, we need to get out of here in the next few years, and unless they really do a lot of renovations. So they've actually started on the renovations of it and are trying to make it stronger. It was meant to just be a home. It was meant to be a house for people, and it turned into a school for 75 students. And they have 4 teachers there, and they're all my age. They all just ended high school and needed a job, and were accepted to teach these children, and it was crazy. I am so blessed by our education here that ending high school here is higher than pretty much their bachelor's degree in college. And so I was able to talk a lot to the teachers and help them teach the students after going through the cadet teaching program and parapro certificate. The simplest things they were unsure of how to do, like the sounds of the alphabet, to teach the students so the children weren't learning. The typical 3rd grade class can't read a sentence like, I saw a fat cat. Like 1% in all of Ghana, 3rd graders can read that. So that was very interesting, and I ended up teaching 1st and 2nd grade instead of preschool because of that. So God had a completely different plan, and I just wanted to read. I just wanted to read Philippians 4, verse 10 through 14. I rejoice greatly in the Lord that at last you renewed your concern for me. Indeed, you were concerned, but you had no opportunity to show it. I am not saying this because I am in need, for I have learned to be content whatever the circumstances. I know what it is to be in need, and I know what it is to have plenty. I have learned the secret of being content in any and every situation, whether well-fed or hungry, whether living in plenty or in want. I can do all this through Him who gives me strength. And that verse, I had actually said that verse to my friend without knowing that it was a verse. I knew Philippians 4, verse 13, but I didn't know right before that Paul talks about how it's because he went through all the different kinds of circumstances. And there were times where we wouldn't have enough food. There were times where we didn't have power, where we took bucket showers, where we walked I walked between 6 and 9 miles a day just on a regular day just to get to and from school, and it was 100 degrees every day. And if I cared about the circumstances, I would be miserable. And God just has so much more to where dying to our flesh, I learned a lot about how dying to our flesh is dying to our emotions. And dying to the circumstances that we have it's just so important, because if we think about some of the things that we go through, we can be completely distracted as to what God is trying to show us through that time. And it could feel like suffering, it could feel like pain, but He has such a bigger plan, and it's so much deeper than what is right in front of us. My friend said that we act like we're standing with a tree right directly in front of us when God wants to show us the entire beautiful forest. And we're here like, God, what are you doing with me, with this tree just right in front of our face, as if we can't move forward? And I felt like that sometimes. It was the toughest 2 months of my life. It was extremely difficult. But God showed me so much through that. And my mom kept telling me, if it isn't difficult, you wouldn't know why you were here. And I had to take a step back and really think about that, because why don't we tell ourselves that every day? It doesn't take Africa to show you that your life is difficult, that we're not meant to be here. There's a hunger in us that is so much deeper than anything that can be fulfilled on earth. And I just really experienced that physically over there, that if it wasn't difficult, then why would we be here? And we should be asking ourselves that every day, because God is intentionally keeping us around, and it's not for no reason. One of my journal entries I just wanted to read while I was there, and I wrote, "There is nothing God needs to be doing better in your life. There are things you need to change so that He can have more access to move in your life. Once you shift your mindset to the greater things, you are unstoppable, and your life will become a constant miracle, because it is solely Him and you. We need to be intentional with our time. From whom much is given, much is expected." And we all have a lot. And I lived with 7 African men. I didn't go with an organization. I walked and got my bread in the morning by myself, and Africans around me were getting sick, and I was staying healthy. I cannot explain why I'm okay. I can't explain why I am safe. And it's truly only by God. The amount of money that I received was the exact amount that they needed to do everything that was completed. We were able to build a kitchen for the school that they literally made the food on the ground, on the dirt ground. Yep. And we made another classroom so they could go up to the 3rd grade. We tiled it all, we painted it all through the money that was given by Calvary, and through the money also we were able to obviously pay for all of the 1,300 teens to eat lunch that day. And Gideon said that they may have never eaten a lunch so good in their lives, especially the ones in the deep villages. And I have to say, each meal was about 75 cents of our money, and it was better than anything they've ever had. And so just putting it into perspective was something that I'll never be able to understand. The last thing I wanted to say was just that our prayers, Gideon had said, if you are praying for something that an African mother isn't praying for, it could easily be a privileged prayer. And that really hit me hard. Like, I pray for things all the time that that an African mother wouldn't be praying for. And I might get frustrated with God because I think that my prayers aren't being answered. But an African mother is literally just praying for health, for her family members, for her kids to grow up strong. she doesn't even know where her next meal is, but somehow the kids are still being provided for. I saw that miracle every day. The parents literally had no idea how they were surviving and how their kids were surviving on little to no money that they had. And that their family members would be saved because that's all they have. They're in a revival over in Africa because it is getting so difficult to live otherwise without God. And so I just pray that we really be intentional with our time. We understand how blessed we are to have an abundance, and that we know that from whom much is given, much is expected, and knowing that we have a lot and we can do so much for the kingdom with what we have. Thank you for your time.